Lost love. Nearly 10 years ago, I found myself in a situation I could never have imagined. I was living in the city, where the summer heat was almost unbearable. The idea of escaping to the countryside, to walk in the woods and see the green trees, began to take hold of me. I had a little red car and a map, so I decided to drive out into the country, hoping to find some peace and beauty. That summer was particularly good, and the countryside was stunning in the early morning. The sun was already hot, the sky a perfect blue, and the sound of birds filled the air. As I drove, my car suddenly came to a halt. Panic set in as I realized I had run out of petrol. I was in the middle of nowhere, with no town in sight on the map. Lost and unsure of what to do, I decided I would have to walk to find help. Just then, I saw a girl walking down the road. She had flowers in her hand, wore a long dress, and had long, black hair that shone in the sun. She was incredibly beautiful. I felt a strong urge to speak to her, so I got out of the car and approached her. "Hello," I said, trying to sound calm. "I'm lost. Can you tell me where I am?" She seemed a bit frightened, so I spoke gently, explaining that I had run out of petrol and needed to find some. Her blue eyes met mine, and she smiled, though she seemed uncertain. "I don't know," she replied softly. "But come with me to the village. Perhaps we can help you." I was relieved and followed her eagerly. We walked for a long time, and I noticed that there was no village marked on my map. It seemed odd, but I thought perhaps it was just a very small, remote place. Finally, we arrived at a village, and it was like something out of a storybook. The houses were small, black and white, and very old. There were animals everywhere, and the place had an almost magical feel to it. The girl led me to a house and invited me in. The house was clean but had an old-fashioned feel. A fire burned in the hearth, and some food was cooking above it. My stomach grumbled, and I realized I was hungry. The girl's parents were there, and they welcomed me warmly, though their clothes were strange, like something from a different time. The old man, her father, asked if I was thirsty, and offered me a drink. It was dark brown and very strong, unlike anything I had ever tasted. It was peculiar, but I felt content there. I asked about finding some petrol, but the old man didn't seem to understand the word. "Petrol?" he asked, confused. "What is that?" This struck me as very odd. I asked if they walked everywhere, and the old man smiled, saying they used horses for travel. Horses? In this day and age? I didn't say anything, but the whole situation felt increasingly strange. I spent the day there, and they treated me to dinner. As evening fell, the girl, whose name I learned was Mary, and I went out into the garden. She was so beautiful, and I felt a growing affection for her. We talked, but after a while, I noticed that she seemed sad. "Why are you sad?" I asked. "I cannot tell you," she replied. "You are only a visitor here, and we must say goodbye tonight. You have to leave now." Her words confused me. I had just met her, and I didn't want to leave. I told her I loved her and that I would go to the next town to find petrol, then come back for her. But she was insistent, urging me to leave before it was too late. Reluctantly, I said goodbye and began my walk to the nearest town. It was midnight, and the night was pitch black. I was exhausted by the time I saw the lights of a town. At a garage, I asked about the village, but the man there gave me a strange look. "What village?" he asked. I described it to him, but he continued to look at me as if I were mad. After a moment, he explained that there had been a village there, but it had been destroyed in a fire 350 years ago. Everyone had died, and there were no houses or people left. I was stunned. How could that be possible? I had just been there, spoken to people, and seen the village with my own eyes. The man hesitated, then told me that, according to legend, the village reappears for just one day every 10 years. On that day, it lives again, but if you don't leave before morning, you'll never leave. Everything began to make sense: the strange clothes, the horses, the old-fashioned way of life. Mary had warned me to go, and now I understood why. I rushed back to where the village had been, but there was nothing there. No houses, no people, just trees and flowers. Heartbroken, I sat down and cried. I would never forget that day, and I would always remember Mary. But now, I only have to wait 2 months. The village will reappear, and when it does, I will go back. This time, I will find her, and I will not leave before morning. I will stay with her forever.